I am so excited today to be joined by Kelly Gunther. She is a former Olympic athlete and just an amazing, patient, kind person. I mean, she has just been so nice and warm, and I'm really excited for this interview. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the new mid.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I'm so honored to be here and just to be able to get and talk and sit down with you.
Well, it's funny because you are 34, you just turned 34, and this is the new mid, it's midlife. But I feel like your story really resonates. Um, Being a former Olympic athlete and all the different trials and stuff that you went through. But you were funny because you were saying, well, I kind of feel like middle aged. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. When we were talking in the green room, 34 is not quite middle aged yet.
It really isn't. It just feels like it for me, it is. But no, it's not.
Well, no, but let's go back. Let's talk about your story. I mean, how did you want to join the Olympics? Like, where did that start?
Honestly, it just started just by me watching and having them on the TV. It was during the 1994 Winter Olympics. And I always say now, just with this past year, being in Tokyo, like how, ironic that my story is coming out and it started in Japan as well. But I was watching figure skating and as that little girl, I obviously don't think I really knew what those Olympic rings meant and were at that time. But I knew I wanted to just be on that stage. And I think that's what's so, cool about me telling my story and being so passionate about it is because as I watched, those figure skaters skate through their music with the jumps and spins, I sat there and said, I can't wait to tell my story in front of a stage someday. And here I am. I don't get to skate because I was too fast for the music to do exactly what they did, but I get to use my voice and hopefully and tell it in front of a stage, someday, just as I watched as a little girl.
Oh no, it's so great because you went from figure skating to speed skating because you were a little too fast. So how was that transition?
It was pretty easy for me to because I was too fast for the music and I couldn't hear the beat of it. So I guess essentially I really did just like to go fast and turn left. Because when I did figure skating and I was, too fast, I would fall and just get right back up and fall and get right back up and just wanted to keep going as fast as I could. So that's really how I got introduced to skating and speed skating. It was a really easy transition. But I really did miss being that girly girl with the hair and makeup and all of that because essentially that's me too.
Well, becoming a speed skater, that's going to take a lot of time and dedication. And when you're young, you also have to be driven there and all of, the everything that comes along with it. So how did you go from just, it being something fun to do to actually dedicating yourself and deciding, okay, I'm going to go for it. I really am going to dedicate myself to be on the US Olympic team.
Mhm. I think for me, it was a lot to do because of my learning disability that I really just, really gravitated towards that, knowing that I was good at one thing and, maybe not so much vice versa in school. So we really use that average to be able to keep pushing me and to use that, because I wasn't so good at another.
So you say you have a learning disability. What was that? And that must have been difficult to have sort of been labeled a learning disability.
Yeah, it actually was really hard for me in school, to be honest with you, middle school and high school. Because you're at that age where you just kind of want to fit in, and like as I said earlier, I did want to be that girly girl. Uh, so it was hard that way because then I started to realize, hey, I am a little quote unquote different, versus everybody else. And I was, separated in a smaller classroom where I just wanted, to be quote unquote normal, or, something I was so ashamed then, that's something that I'm so proud of now. And I say that because as I am in my mid 30s, I just talked to my special ed teacher last week for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, okay, who can raise their hand and say that they can still talk to their teacher, their seventh and eighth grade teacher, for an hour and a half today? So that's really neat to be able to have that connection, and give back to, so many where I was so ashamed of it. And now, like I said, I'm so proud of what I went through because of that trial and error. Like that mess, really is becoming my message. And I'm really just grasping on to that and being proud of it.
Well, that is amazing. And, it shows your dedication because you probably had to study a little bit harder and training, for the Olympics, you have to, definitely work really hard for that. Now, you came within 24 hours of making the Olympic team. Do you mind telling us a little bit how that happened?
Yes, it really did happen just like in a blink of an eye. In 2010, Vancouver for me was kind of out of mind, out of sight. I was new to the sport. I knew I had a lot to learn. So honestly, my eye on the prize was already 4 years out to Sochi, Russia. I skated the Olympic trials of 2010 to get the experience, to get the feel, so I would be ready to go. And then when you make a dream come true, all of those childhood memories, came about. They sparked. They were there. I was going to the Olympics, and then within that 24 hours, it was being taken away by ruling. And the athlete that I was going to become, and the athlete in the person even, was going to happen that very next day, because I easily could have been, put my hands up in the air and said, I'm new to the sport. This isn't fair. Or I knew I had to be better, faster, and stronger because I had those 4 years to keep going to be able to get to that next level, because I had that mindset and I was already determined that very next day that nobody was going to take that dream away from me again. I was going to make it fair and square. And I knew at the end of the day, I just had to be faster. I wasn't going to go through that arbitration and all of that mess that I went through.
Well, what happened? What happened with the arbitration and the ruling?
Yeah, so the arbitration, I guess what happened, the girl that had fallen. So 2010, they did Olympic trials completely different. They did our country had 4 spots. The top 3 were already taken. So we were racing off of the 4th and final position, essentially. My bread and butter is the 1,000 meters. So it's 2.5 laps around the track. And I had one going into the first day. So fair and square. Second day, it was the same. The competitor who it had to come down to, and me and her, was the race ahead of me. So I saw her skate the whole 9 yards. And my coach had said to me, hey, Kelly, just stay on your feet. We're going to the Olympics, race your race. So that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what I did. And as she skates, we see that she falls across the finish line and gets 3rd place. And so that's what he said to me. So I was named to the team. I was going to the Olympics, the whole 9 yards. Well, while I was in drug testing and whatnot, the girl that had gotten that 3rd place had been ice skating her whole entire life. We found out in the arbitration, the head referee was from her hometown, and she listed all of the other competitions that she had made a team on a reskate, different things that you essentially can't make for an Olympic team. So that's where I always say, was it fair? No, but does it make me a better person at the end of the day? Makes me stronger. Absolutely. That's for sure. Because if you want to be put on a team, by a ruling, when it's not really a ruling, then, to each their own. And that's how I really just look at it.
But what's amazing is you have to wait another 4 years. And this is your dream since you were a little girl. So I can't even imagine what was going through your mind when you learned that ruling.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. And I was really down that night. I cried, like I said, all those feelings had come through where it's not fair, it's not this and that. But I let myself, be in that pit, in that mud sand for that evening and that night. But I knew when I woke up the next day, it was a new day. And I knew that I had those 4 years. Yes, granted, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I knew that that athlete that I was going to become and that person, I wasn't going to just walk away just because of what had happened.
Okay, Kelly, that is an incredible mindset. And that is definitely a mindset of an Olympic athlete.
Thank you.
Because a lot of us would just throw in the towel and be like, that's not fair, and not want to deal with it. But you gave yourself the time to mourn, grief, and then you picked yourself up and kept going. So what were those next 4 years like as you were training?
They were a lot of fun, to be honest with you. Those 4 years were the best 4 years of my career. 2.5 months later, I had a double compound fracture of the 2010 season because I finished it out. I was racing just an American Cup in Salt Lake City. And the way that I had fallen that day was gruesome, obviously.
Okay, you have to tell that story because I have to tell you that is an incredible story. So, how did you crash?
We really think that my foot just wasn't in the ice that day. Because if anyone has ever watched long track or whatnot, it is very cut and dry. You're in your lane by yourself. Typically, nobody touches you. It's just you and the clock. And that day I was in the outer lane. So again, by myself, you skate in the lane just you in the lane. And I make my speed in the corners. So I was getting excited to head to the corner because I had just passed the 50-meter mark. Mind you, I'm maybe going like 5 miles an hour. Like I'm not even like going this fast yet. And it was my very first crossover and my foot wasn't just stuck in the ice that day. And because I was in that outer lane, there's pads that go around the whole entire track. And my foot got stuck underneath the jab of the pad. And then the torque of it is what ripped it around. And I was laying like a baseball player sliding into home plate, literally with my arms out in front of me and my legs straight up behind me. And then I could feel my foot or bone was broken. But at that time, I had no idea it was detached from my leg.
Oh, goodness. Did you look?
I looked once. I told myself I could look once, but I was not going to look again. So I looked once and I just kept my calm. I never cried on the ice. I just really kept talking to myself. And again, that's really where that mindset came from, because even as I was laying there frigiding cold on the ice, trying not to panic, I'm beyond sure I was in shock, but I didn't want to make it worse, and I didn't cry, and that's why I did a lot of self-talk just to myself, as I knew, this world that we live in, someone is in the hospital right now, facing a battle or something. I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm going to be able to skate again. And it was exactly in that moment, laying there with my foot not attached, that I told myself I was going to be able to skate again. I mean, so much so as even on the way to the hospital, me asking the paramedics and them laughing right back at me, like reminding me that my foot wasn't attached to my leg. And they always say they took the blade off on the ice, but if they would have took the boot off as well, there's no telling that the foot would have went with it. So it was just that complete, just mindset that I just took that positive and I really turned it around, or that negative, and turned it around to a positive.
Okay, Kelly, that is incredible that you're saying to me that if they would have taken the boot off, your foot might have gone with it. That is mind blowing. So there you are. You're 2 years after not making it to the Olympics due to a technicality. Mm-hmm. And you've just now had a major crash. Mm-hmm. And you're saying to yourself, I'm going to get back on the ice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so what is going on in the hospital? What is going on with the people closest around you?
Mm-hmm. I made the best of it, because I fell just 2.5 months later after I was knocked out of the Olympic team. So I had a lot ahead of me. And in the hospital, I had said, or I was told I wanted to do my rehab at the Olympic Training Center. And this is where I'm such a huge believer that everything happens for a reason, is because as a teenager, we would do residency and training camps in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center. And I would always say, I want to live here someday. But inline speed skating, it is not an Olympic sport, and long track speed skating, there's only one in Salt Lake City and in Milwaukee. So my odds were coming down real low here. But when I found out I got to do my rehab at the Olympic Training Center, it literally changed my life. I mean, I got to live that dream come true. I always say it took my foot hanging off my leg, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I was that girl that never got to go to college or got to experience that. My best example of the Olympic Training Center is almost essentially like that for athletes. I mean, there's dorm rooms, the cafeteria is huge. There's a lot of summer programs that are based out of there, like wrestling's huge, men's gymnastic team is based out of there. So there's a lot of different teams that Bain lived there, year round. Michael Phelps would come in and out and train there. So it was just that world became my community, and it just really clung on to each other, because as I was that 6-year-old girl, I was now 22, 23 that summer, and I had never been off my skates that long my entire life. So I really didn't know what to do with myself. So I used my training or my rehab every single day as my training twice a day. And that's what really kind of kept me cool.
Well, what's incredible about that too is talk about mindset and who you surround yourself. You are with the elite athletes, top athletes while you're rehabbing. Was there anyone particular during that time that inspired you, that you talked to, any coaches?
Yeah, I love that question, because it was really kind of like the whole staff. The head doctor in Colorado, he was an older gentleman, and he had 2 sons, and he had always said, Kelly, if I ever would have had a girl, I wish she could have been you. Like they just really became my family. And the trainer who he did a lot of ice skating previous, like 2002, so he knew like Apollo Ono, and he made it fun for me. Like he would make games out of it. He was head of wrestling, so one of the guys from the wrestling team would have to do rehab, and we would have races, and my foot did not work under any sort of imagination. But when you come to a race with me, I'm not backing down from anybody. So it was just that group, there, and seeing Michael Phelps come in and out, and seeing those Olympic rings, never losing sight of that was just so huge and so important to me. I fell in love having my first boyfriend there, because the men's gymnastics team was there. So I always say took my foot hanging off my leg to have my first boyfriend. So it was a lot, and it was really special to me to have and grow that community where I was new to the sport of long track speed skating, where I just had all odds stacked against me. And I was now being told 2.5 months later, I may never be able to skate to a level that I've ever dreamt of, or skate at all. I mean, within a year, the doctor, when he took out all the 10 screws and plate, that's when he would have known if my foot would have needed to be amputated, which thank God it didn't. I mean, it's attached now. I have no hardware in there. So I had a lot ahead of me, but, having that support group that I had was just so special to me. And it is completely mindset, and who you surround yourself with is so, so huge.
Well, thank God the human body and medicine is incredible that right now you can say you have no screws in your ankles. I didn't realize, I'm sorry, I thought it was 2 years after, but it was 2 months after. So you got hit double whammy. But what's so great is you realize, oh, it's not exactly how you thought your dream would come true, but being at the Olympic Colorado facility was a dream come true, and being surrounded. Now, how did you take that and continue on training, and then I want to say audition, try out for the Olympics for 2014?
Yeah, it took a lot. I remember I bawled my eyes out before I left Colorado. I was like, I don't want to go back without, my support group. But knowing that they were there is what motivated me and kept me, humble. And knowing what is so special is when the night before I tried out for the Olympics in 2014, I had sat in my 1-bedroom apartment by myself and I had said, whatever happens tomorrow is going to happen tomorrow. Whether I make it or don't make it, I get to say I tried out for the Olympics. And how many people can say that? Just 4 years prior, we had no idea if I was ever going to be able to skate again. I mean, I walked into Colorado with crutches and a boot. I mean, the odds were very slim, but I get to try out and go to the starting line and not only do this for me, but for my team that put my foot back into a skate, and we worked hard, and there was sweat, there was tears, there was laughs, and I get to do it not only for, like I said, for me, but to show them that it was really a group that made me be able to come back and be the comeback kid and never stop. And that's something that was just so remarkable to me, that I wasn't just skating for who I was.
Well, that had to help you with any self-doubt, because you had to have had self-doubt during that time. I mean, there had to be times when you were like, I can't do this. Or were you like, you thought, oh, I can absolutely conquer this?
Honestly, I want to say I always thought that I could. The doubt never really came in. And I say that because of just how much fun it was. I mean, when you spend 6 months every day, twice a day with your trainers, you really get to know each other and you really get to, have fun with it. And I think that's what was just so important, is I got to have fun. And for the first time in my life, I never got to work out my upper body. So the women's trainer who was in the gym, she's the head coach of the wrestling team, I got to work out with them in my upper body, so I really used all different angles that I never got to do. And I think and know that that's why the doubt was never there, is there was just so much positivity around me, and it really was my bubble of just love and fun. And, having that was everything to me.
Well, it's great you were having fun. You had a good time and worked hard, but enjoyed it. So take me back. What was it like to make the team? What was that skate like when you lined up on the line, and then when you finished, and then when you got the thumbs up, the notification? What was that like?
It was so surreal. But from the very beginning, I was just so excited to go to the starting line. I remember the oval it was like a packed stand. There were so many people there. It was bright lights, the ice like sparkly, beautiful. And I couldn't wait to go to that line and have that gun go off. I remember even standing there at the starting line, like, okay, just like a deep breath. I can't wait to rock and roll. Let's have that gun go off. And as soon as that gun went off, it was just a pure moment of fun, just to be able to skate in front of that many spectators and, show what I love doing, and having that mindset of that little girl come back of when I watched, them skate and tell their story through, those spectators at the Olympics. And here I am trying out for that. And then, when I was told I made that fourth and final position by my time, a personal best. And, it was fair. It was not going to be taken away. It was just so surreal, and something that just is so, sometimes I can't even believe that it's still true and that, I got to live it out. But it's really neat to know that it's just a part of who I am. It's not everything. It's not an entitlement. It's just a title. And I'm proud I made that one dream come true, but I'm so excited for the next big thing that life has.
That's so exciting and remarkable. Did you call the trainer in Colorado by any chance and tell him?
Mm-hmm. I did. And he actually got to be the head doctor in Sochi, Russia. So if you want to talk about emotions of a whirlwind, there was a lot there, because then he got to be in the stands at my Olympic race And when I stepped out for my race at the Olympics on the ice, I almost wanted to cry because I knew not only was the head doctor there, but other trainers got to come watch me race. And we just had no idea what was going to happen 4 years prior. So I always say, if I have a gold medal moment, that is my moment to be able to have that. And then him tell me after I raced, here we are sitting in this little tiny medical Sochi, Russia, Olympic Village, medical room. And he had said, Kelly, I remember the first day that you and your mom walked in here with crutches and a boot, and I never told you how hard it was going to be. And I had no idea if you were ever going to be able to skate again, but you showed up every single day for rehab. You never missed a session. And, that's why you got to live your dreams out today.
Oh my gosh, that must have been an incredible moment.
Yeah.
Now, we just had the Summer Olympics, and, Simone Biles, she went through some difficult times and wasn't able to compete the way she would have liked to have competed. What are your thoughts on what she went through? And can you give us any insight, since you were an Olympic athlete, and the pressures that you face?
Thanks for asking that question, because I give her so much commencement for what she did. And being an athlete and being at that level, I know that's no way easy. And I don't know Simone, so I can't speak for her. But being an athlete and looking from the outside in, I really felt like that pressure, not only did it get to her, but it got to her because I feel like I almost said skating. She wasn't doing gymnastics for Simone. She was doing it for everybody else. And I say that because the last 2.5 years of my career, I almost hated skating legitimately. And it's something that is so sad because I loved skating for 25 years of my life. And I hated it. I almost wanted nothing to do with it. And I feel like watching, her trying to compete at that level, it's not easy when you have all of that on there. And it's especially not easy when all eyes are on you. And she had the world on top of her shoulders, and you can't go out and compete and conform if it's not for yourself. And she just showed that, it was for everybody else and not for her. And she wanted to do it for the love, for why she loved it. And that's why I just give her so much credit for being able to taking that control and to taking her mindset, because I sometimes wish I could have done that and, walked away when I knew, I fell out of love of skating. And, that's a huge moment for her that is more meaning than any gold medal, because we will always remember how strong she was, because her mind wasn't in it. And when your mind's not in it, you can't compete for yourself, and you sure can't compete for the world that's all watching you. So I it's so honor her for that.
Well, it's interesting because you were saying when you came back and you made the Olympic team during that trial, when you got on the line, you just thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
You were just so excited to be there. And then you had your best time, your best skate ever. And then you come back to when you ended your career and talking about Simone. How did that happen? How did you end up ending your career?
Knowing that I was ready mentally and physically, I was there. I was exhausted. I was drained, and there wasn't no fun anymore. That was completely gone out the window. For my whole entire career, I had never not gotten along with a coach. So I was dealing a lot with the back end of it. I was trying to get along with a coach that I knew I was going to retire no matter what. I wanted to make the best, 4 years, especially the last 2 years, to going into the Olympics, the funnest and the best that I could and enjoy it. And I just couldn't, because we weren't going to see eye and eye. And, there was a teammate and her and I didn't get along. I had never not gotten along with a teammate. So there was just a lot of unfilled, on excitement things going on, where one of my best friends said it perfectly. And she said, because it was October and we were out maybe 2 months, 3 months before Olympic trials. And I had left the ice crying, and I said, I don't know if I can keep going anymore because I couldn't keep fighting. And that's where it's so sad, because I love the sport of skating. And that's exactly what she told me. She goes, Kelly, I know you love skating. I can see it, but you're over the bull crap. And that's exactly what it was. And your body and your mind can only fight for so long before you're just ready. You can't keep fighting no longer.
And so then you did though try out for the Olympics. And so when you didn't make it, was that a sense of relief?
Yes, it was. And that all comes into where I'm such a huge believer that everything happens for a reason. I wasn't supposed to be there in 2018 because I knew all of the back end. I knew I couldn't go and represent our country when I wasn't happy, not with our country, but with the proud, statement on my back. I couldn't go and fake it. And I knew my body was falling apart. I mean, it took me 2 injections in my back and knee just to get to the Olympic trials. And the girl that I had made it, I was so beyond excited for her. If anyone can beat me and make that first spot that she did, I was so happy for her, because that was her dream to always go to the Olympics. And, that's why it was such a relief, is I wasn't supposed to be there. In 2014, yes, absolutely, hands down, I was supposed to be there. And that's how the cards played out. And that's how I was made it. And now I'm able to sit back and, tell my story, because that's really what I believe am supposed to do.
Well, I love your story. I'm so grateful that you came on the New Mid to tell us. If someone is feeling like they just can't get started, like they just can't get over some of a hurt or an obstacle that they're facing, what advice would you give them?
My best advice is to take time with it, and really let yourself mourn in that, and know that it may take time longer than somebody else. And don't compare yourself. If that person maybe had gone through what you did and they got over it within 5 hours and it takes you 5 months, just because you are your own individual person. So, taking time to know that it's okay and that you are going to get over it. And it's all your mindset. Whether you want to get over it, you can. And if you don't want to, you won't, so it really comes down to that self-positivity talking, and how bad do you want to get over it? Because I can promise you can.
That is amazing. Kelly, thank you so much. If someone wants to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
Yes. Thank you so much again, Michelle, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm very active on Instagram. My handler is just Kelly Gunther. If you see 2 R's, that is still me. I would love to talk, reach out. I'm an open book, and I would love to be able to connect anyway and help and be your cheerleader if I can.
Well, Kelly, you have been such an inspiration. And thank you so much for being here and telling us your incredible stories of getting knocked down, getting back up, getting knocked down even further, and getting way back up. You definitely are the comeback kid.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.